Blind Albino, When Pigs Fly, Take 1, Part 2. Some people say there are no new ideas, only new ways to combine them. Using that adage as a design philosophy, we here at Blind Albino have decided to take a renewed look at the term mixed media. This video will be a hands-on sneak peek at our first game titled When Pigs Fly. I'd like to thank you for joining us, and let's take a closer look at some of the things we're up to. With so many wonderful games already in the marketplace, we had to ask ourselves, what is it that we can bring to the party that's not already there? Well, everyone here at Blind Albino has some sort of background in the arts, and so we just decided to do what we know, do what we love, and bring our prior experience into the gaming community. So for our first game titled When Pigs Fly, we're going to be using traditional stop-motion photography techniques to capture the animations, and all of the art assets are going to be handmade, either sculpted or painted. With very few exceptions, there will be one or two digital assets. But for the most part, it's all hands-on models, paintings, and drawings. That's my lunch. Ignore that. That's not part of the game. And so without further ado, I'd like to show you a little bit about our creative process here at the beginning. Here's a quick tour of my studio. I've got my paint mixing station, various drawing utensils, pokers, cutters, scrapers, my airbrush cleaning station, various jars for storage, my workbench where I do all my drawing, painting, woodworking, sculpting, photography, animation, and eating lunch. Got all my paint supplies over here. Where would I be without this? Necessary tools of the trade. And this is where it all happens, ladies and gentlemen. So not all of the magic takes place there in the garage. This is my post-production bedroom. Here's my workstation in various states of anarchy at the moment. I guess I should have cleaned up, but this gives you a more accurate idea of how I work. So I sit there in bed brainstorming, writing my scripts and so forth, oftentimes while playing my console entertainment. And even though this is not as glamorous as an art studio, this is where probably most of my time gets spent. As you know, the digital process, it consumes the hours like nothing else. And maybe later on we'll have some tutorials about the digital aspect of this game, but for now we're primarily going to stick with the arts and crafts portion, and there'll be more videos to come later. So we will be putting out several videos over the production timeline here for our game, but in this first one we're not going to get into the narrative of the game. We're not going to give away the story just yet. That'll be in another video. But for now, I just wanted to show some of the hands-on model work that we've done. These are the player character models, and each different version you see, these are the power-ups that you can get in the game. And these are store-bought artist models to begin with, but every single one of them had to be customized in its own way to achieve certain poses that we wanted. This one, for example, is the free faller, and in upcoming videos we'll give more details on what each power-up does. But essentially, this guy has no powers. He's just free falling. That's how you start the game. And so he'll be animated. You'll be able to maneuver him. But as you can see from this character here, this character has been customized aesthetically and had some things attached and had a weapon created for him. But you'll notice in the hip region, this is the easiest way to demonstrate. He's got very limited movement here. The wooden model here has not been customized, but you can see that this hip joint is adhered to itself, and so you have very limited range on how you can manipulate the legs. You can't move them out. They can only bend so far. It looks really stiff and awkward. Now for this character, for this power-up, that works fine. He's sort of a stiff, robotic posture anyways. But if you want to get a little bit more life in your animation, then you have to customize. And in this case, for almost every model, what I've done is I've cut the joint off, taken them apart piece by piece, sanded, shaped, sculpted, bolted, wood glued, reconnected everything. So now his legs can flay out. And we'll show some more extreme examples here. This character holding the umbrella, I wanted this character to be holding tightly to the umbrella, and he's going to have the ability to do a really wide sweeping kick to kick things below him, but we had to completely re-engineer the joints. You can see that the hip has been sanded down to allow for this movement. The knee joint has had to be taken apart and cut away, along with the elbows. And just another example of how each one of them has been customized in a unique fashion. This character here, for example, holding an Uzi, when he's firing his weapon, we wanted him to seem out of control, and his legs fly apart extremely. So he just has that sort of erratic fire pattern to him, as if he's just hanging on to the gun for dear life. And so another example where I had to go into the hip, but customize this hip in a different way. Cut chunks out of the hip, sanded it down, reattached it. And so if these were simply store-bought items, I wouldn't feel comfortable using them. But since we've had to hand customize each one, I thought it was okay. I felt all right using these in the game. For some of the enemy types, we've got origami pigs. Some of the assets are made out of a clay material called Sculpey, and you can basically sculpt it and just cook it in your own oven. And then many of them have been airbrushed. This guy here has probably about a dozen different layers of colored airbrush. And there's certain details that I really enjoy about handmade objects. For one thing, I love being able to see frayed edges on things, see the evidence of handmade, like little bits of wood glue. I love that you can see the wire armatures through some of the pieces. And I accidentally dropped it when I was in the craft store one time and chipped the foot. But that's all right. It's these little imperfections that remind me that these are real, tangible objects. Here, for example, I was using a Dremel tool to cut the holes to mount the wings, and the Dremel tool skipped across and dinged his back, and I tried to sand it out, but I didn't fully remove that little dimple, and that's there to stay. So it's those kind of things that I really enjoy about this process. You can see the pins in their hands where the guns are attached. You can see wood glue drips. You can see splinters and imperfections, and all of these things I really enjoy them. They give things life. It's the imperfections that remind me that something is unique and has character and a history behind it. And speaking of history, this guy is an example of something that is history. He's been ejected from the game. You all know that during the creative process, oftentimes things get cut for various reasons. This guy here, this was a patent troll enemy. It's a briefcase with vampire bat wings and teeth. And its objective was to shoot subpoenas and legal documents at you. And every time you struck this enemy, with the gavel of justice. This power-up was called the Shield Act. And if you want to know more about the Shield Act and how to protect yourself from patent trolls, I definitely recommend you look up information on the Shield Act. But I decided to cut it from the game because it's too political. It removed you from the game. It made you think too much. And as I'm really proud of this enemy type, he animated very well. There's armatures in the wings. The briefcase can open and close. And I'm really proud of it, but it's got to go. It's got to go. It didn't fit with the premise of the rest of the game. So that's the creative process. Some things stay, some things go. So I'd like to thank you for joining us, and like I said, in the future we'll be hosting more videos. Maybe give a bit more in-depth video about the studio space and how things are set up and how things function. I look forward to doing some of those member spotlights for the Blind Albino crew. They don't know I have that planned yet, but I'm going to try to twist their arms because they're really a bunch of talented, wonderful, creative individuals. And what else? I look forward to revealing a bit about the story of our first game, but you're going to have to wait for that. I'd like to thank you for taking the time. This is Blind Albino. My name is Matt. And please subscribe, like, do all those wonderful things if you're so inspired. And we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.